Idolmaster 2 is the closest we have to a remake of the franchise, especially for girls returning to be newbies. And this is quite acceptable since there is a big surprise factor in the main story. The factor of the visual novel may need to change. With the rise of many visual novels that began to become popular, it gave the feeling that this genre was being saturated in the market, both for video games and anime. So, it is necessary to do something so that the history and the strategy factor can live up to new technologies. Let's see how the main story is reinvented. The main story route is determined by the leader you choose. By week 18, you have to finalize the leader. The leader will be the basis of the chosen route. Changing leaders will be impossible from here on out until the playthrough is over. As the story progresses, Jupiter, or just Toma, single-handedly beat Ryugu Komachi to a pulp. Later, you will have to avenge Ryugu Komachi against Jupiter. For the gameplay, the flow of each week is the following. First, the chosen idol will make a remark. Then, you either praise her when she's happy, or scold her when she's being angry. This is not only to stabilize the unit status, but this is to raise the very important unity power. You have 3 time slots available. The different activities require different amounts of time. This is where you decide on lessons, work, auditions, lives, festivals, and shopping. Unlike the previous game, there are only 3 lessons: vocal, dance, and visual. On vocal lessons, just hit the buttons in time shown on the screen. Dance is where you repeat the button presses shown in a sequence. And visual, the staple minigame, is where you click upon the moving buttons with the same color as the one being asked. No actual reading required, so this makes Idolmaster 2 import-friendly in terms of lessons. The stats will increase the better you perform in the lesson minigame. The super versions consume 2 time slots instead of 1. The super versions have a longer time limit, which will make it easier to achieve a perfect on the lessons. Very useful when you want to focus on a single stat since you can't choose the same lesson within that week. There are 2 kinds of work, promotion and publicity. Promotion lets you gain money, while publicity requires money. There are the sources of raising memory appeal level 2. Publicity is expensive, but gaining fans is key to gaining the true endings, so no need to hold back. Before work, you get to do a geography quiz. Answer it right, and your unity power will increase. Prepare a map when you're about to answer this. Why this is needed is confusing though. Work is where the usual communes happen. Choices and touches are back. Now, with the touch segments, how long you press the A button is taken into account as well. And there are even more communes where touching the girl's chest is the right answer, including the notorious warming the convenience store food with Yukiko's chest commune. What a ride! Oh, and more commune minigames. Before lives, you get to do a cheer. Cheer is when you guess the cheer the trio will say. Guess it right, and it will increase the unity power. The key is on the lip flaps. Now, the meat of the game. Auditions, lives, and festivals work identically. The difference is their end goals. Auditions and lives are just a matter of raising the score. Not that complex. The beast of this game is festivals. But before that, let's look at the basic controls. In a nutshell, you tap the corresponding buttons in rhythm. Which button? It's up to you. The BPM depends on the song selected. Each button has their own multipliers. For each use, the multiplier will decrease, but the multiplier of the right side will increase in a loop pattern. The order of the buttons is dance, visual, and vocal, following the Xbox 360's colors of X, Y, and B respectively. So, the bottom button, A or X on the PS3, is a memory appeal button. It will reset the multipliers to a fixed value, which means in general you will recover at the right moments. The more the memory appeal level, the more you can use per live. Then there is the voltage gauge. When it's full, you can use the burst appeal, which will over-increase the multipliers, and the rhythm rings will appear on specific ones in order depending on the current leader of the unit. For example, Hibiki will output 6 dance rings and only 2 of the others. This makes dance build the most optimal when she's a leader. Sounds complicated? Because it is, and there is still more to it. You need to pay attention to the song you choose. It's BPM and not breaking your chain. Within the scoring system, there is a chain bonus, where the longer the chain, the better the score, and it is a significant contributor too. This is where you have to decide either a low BPM song like My Song, so you won't get overwhelmed to keep the chain going, or straight out using a high BPM song like Kirame Kirari, and rack up high chain count, though the risk of breaking the chain is high, especially since looking at the numbers is crucial, and you need to trust your rhythm to keep the chain going. For festival-specific mechanics, now you have to fight another unit. They can appeal memory appeal, and burst appeal as well. You must have your score higher than your opponent. So, like it or not, you must decrease the potential of your opponent increasing their score, as well as with well-timed memory appeals and burst appeals. The opponent can do it too, so keep your wits on. After the live, depending on the prefecture, you can buy the charm available there. With the right charm, it will decide your victory or defeat, which adds more to this game's complexity. Evening Commu, the end of the week. You can call it a day if you wish, but your road towards true end will be less grueling when you do it every time, provided you can succeed. Choose to play with them and you will either play rock, paper, scissors with them, the who's not talking game, an impersonation game, and when the status is bad, you may lecture them. The rock, paper, scissors game seems self-explanatory, but the goal for you is to lose and let your idol taste victory. Have the result at draw 3 times in a row is fine as well. The key is to take a close look at their face. Which one they will put out depends on the face they make before bringing forth their hand. The who's not talking minigame is self-explanatory, but this is where your familiarity with the idol's voice is put to test. 2 of the trio will talk simultaneously. You have to guess correctly who is the one who isn't talking at all. Impersonations as well. Answer correctly who is the one doing the impersonations. Some characters are trickier than others, like Hibiki and Mami. Mami especially because, you know, Asami Shimoda. She's good at that stuff. Lecturing is only available when their status is not good. Do it right and they will recover. When you fail the unity power, it'll decrease. So be careful. That is the flow of the game. Oh, right. There are statuses for the units. There are the bad ones, the good ones, and the ones that will make it easier to get a perfect on the specific lesson being boosted. Utilize these and pay attention to their status. There are several points you have to pass to continue through the story. These are defeating the rivals mainly. When you lose at certain points, you'll be able to rewind the weeks and attempt Hell Training, a special lesson to raise all stats. Reaching the ending is not too difficult, but how about getting the true ending? The requirement to getting the true ending is quite tasking. Win the IA Grand Prix, which means have one of your songs at top 10 within the sales chart and have 300,000 fans on normal mode. And all regional awards. To access the Utahime Utaoji Fest to attain the regional awards, you have to reach 100,000 fans on that region and then win it. The fest available there is cruel, so manage your strategy well. With a limited amount of weeks and money, this is not easy to pull off.
Oh, 君たち突然だが実はディスコ君のユニット竜宮小町が出るフェスに一枠空きができてねいい機会だから君たちも参加してみてはどうかねまあ彼女たちと互角に戦うにはまだ少し早いかもしれないが結果がどう転ぼうともとにかくいい経験になるかと思ってねそう来なくてはな彼女たちの胸を借りるつもりで
Speaking of story in the game, Idolmaster 2 has one of the most controversial ones among Idolmaster games. The criticism is not only about the existence of Jupiter or Ryugu Komachi themselves, but the president and the producer we play as too. It is remarked that the president's suggestion to have your unit face off against the more experienced Ryugu Komachi is just pointless and crushing. In the Xbox 360 version, when fighting them for the first time, the loss is mandatory, and by the next week, the unit will be in a bad state. So essentially, this is the president's fault, as people say. Also, the producer is rather difficult to empathize with, especially with the bad options. His mannerisms are comparatively rude too, with bad suspicions towards rivals. Having the option to give some insults to the rivals, like intentionally misspelling Toma's name, and so on. As a whole, Ryugu Komachi don't contribute too much to the story, and neither does Jupiter. Despite that, Jupiter in-game doesn't behave too awfully, really. One of the points of criticism is the point of idols pitted against other idols as well. In other words, the festivals. Not much is delved about that, it's just simply there. Chihaya's story progression is deemed too fanatical too, or too fantastical, some might say. One of the most glaring ones is the odd power scaling in relation to the gameplay moments, so to speak. Ryugu Komachi is easily defeated by Jupiter. Then the CD sales of Ryugu Komachi got overshadowed quickly without any new songs from Ryugu Komachi onto the list. Jupiter may be the final boss, but the regional units are far fiercer. By the time you toppled all the regional Utahime or Utaoji Fest, Jupiter will be a cakewalk. And about the game's main theme, Unity, let's say it's barely apparent. It's mainly enforced by the commune minigames, but other than that, the unity between the members is not tangible enough. Only as far as unique lines on some occasions. Still, for Gal games, the standard number of routes is around 6 to 10 heroines, so preparing 13 is, one can say it's quite tasking. Plus, at the time, the Idolmaster team probably thought that the Idolmaster is just your good old video game series. Just 1 or 2 roster cuts would be fine, like fighting games do. There are no rivals to compare itself to that as well. Within the realm of video games, Idolmaster was still standing. The result was, however, that roster cut was one of the worst things an Idol series can do. For Idol fans, roster cut is a big no-no. This will be looked at as a taboo moving forward, and no one has dared to partially cut their Idol roster ever since. Although in gameplay and story, Ami, Azusa, Iori, and Ritsuko were cut, they still function and sing with their own vocals for all songs. So in terms of lives, it's not something to worry about. And following Idolmaster SP's way of integrating rivals, each 3 idols have 1 Jupiter member to be the highlighted rival. For example, Shota will often appear in Yayoi's route. Overall, as a game on its own, Idolmaster 2 certainly still stands tall. But it can't be denied that it's one of the most controversial games ever, to the point of almost completely breaking the unity of the producer players. All things considered, seeing Idolmaster rise back and still thriving after Idolmaster 2's fiasco is pretty impressive. It can be remembered as a very elaborate idol managing strategy game, but many will see it as how not to handle your series. No roster cuts for an idol series. Weirdly enough, other companies seem to translate this to no gender mixing within one title. The story and some aspects are up to scrutiny, true, but it's a fun game nonetheless. Sometime later, it got ported to PS3 with some expansions. The Ps3 expansion was released on October 27th, 2011. This is 3 months after the anime first aired. It includes nerfing Chihaya's vocal capability, Hyper Mode, which is the more convenient game for the experts but more difficult overall. The normal mode is made easier. Some DLC songs from the Xbox 360 version got included from the start. Jupiter can appear on stage for you. New costumes and accessories, and the most significant addition of all, you can produce the cut idols, Ami, Azusa, Iori, and even Ritsuko herself, the producer. These are sub-episodes where you become a co-producer of Ryugu Komachi. It seems like they still want Ryugu Komachi to be their own entity. Lessons are automatically done. No mini-games. All you can do is enjoy the story and do the festivals. Pretty short compared to the other 9, but hey, they listened to some extent. The good news is, despite of the controversy, both versions got re-released on August 2nd, 2012 as part of a bestsellers line, so one can say it still makes money. Idolmaster 2 is on the more expensive side of things for the second-hand copies. The Xbox 360 version is around $18 to $20 a pop. The PS3 one is cheaper and more accessible, ranging from $13 to $18. All things considered, the PS3 version is the best option. It has thicker vanilla content, much like Idolmaster 1's Xbox 360 version compared to its arcade counterpart. And PS3 has no region lock, so it's import-friendly. Xbox 360 version, on the other hand, requires a Japanese Xbox 360 to run because of region locking. Worse, with wrong voltage, and if you don't use a voltage transformer, your Xbox 360's power brick will explode, fumed in smoke. So yeah, just get the PS3 version. On a side note, there are 4 DLC characters available for Stage for You. Hatsune Miku, yes, the Vocaloid Hatsune Miku, Ai Hidaka, Eri Mizutani, and Ryo Akizuki. Miku, the Vocaloid, not the cat girl from Cinderella Girls, can only perform her own songs, so as well as the other guest idols. The Miku crossover is in tandem with the release of Project Diva 2nd. In exchange, Project Diva 2nd received some Idolmaster content. Small trivia time. Idolmaster 2 is the debut of Ami's notorious loading song. Unplayable in the main game, of course. While loading, Ami will goof off around the screen until you finish loading. The thing is, in normal cases, the loading is fast enough not to give Ami any second to start singing. To be able to enjoy it long enough to be able to listen to it in full length, you have to make the loading longer, like doing something to the disc. give it scratches, for example. Well, go ahead if you want to try it out for yourself, but please take good care of your physical goods. President Junjito Takagi himself had a lot of history, following the events of the anime and, to an extent, Idolmaster 2. There is a prequel manga, mainly starring Kotori in her high school years. The producer in question is Junjito Takagi. So, although in the first vision it was hinted that Kotori's producer was Junichiro, Kotori's producer is actually Junjiro. Though the manga itself and many methods that are used to drive the story have a lot of nods to Idolmaster 2, including the PS3 version, that is for another time. Last but not least, President Junichiro Takagi produced Momokanda, as he stated in Idolmaster Platinum Album Book, released on October 1st, 2005. Though it got a bit censored. The censorship is probably just for a joke and leave it slightly more to interpretation. Wonder Momo had been in the Idolmaster team's mind all along. Hello everybody, here this is RennujiP, who's going to take this small opportunity to thank everybody who's been following the channel and watching all the videos so far regarding the history of the very old Idolmaster games. It really makes us happy that everyone's here and interested to see how the old days were back then. This is going to be the video coverage that will spawn the beginning of multiple other spin-off branches to the Idolmaster, such as the ones you know like Million Live and Cinderella Girls. So this is where it all starts, and we hope you're looking forward to finding out the history behind those sub-off spin or the sub-series as well. We hope that you want to enjoy those videos as we make them, and we are